Beetlejuice 2 was utterly fantastic and, to my surprise, quite hilarious. The 36-year-old gap in between the original and the sequel was a bit jarring at first, but the eerie and spooky chaos of the final act really stoked that seemingly flickering fire into a bright, burning flame. As you all know, a few different characters joined the cast, including my celebrity crush, Jenna Ortega, and so I obviously had to check out this Tim Burton film. It started off with great tone-setting music, followed by a clever setup of the villains in the film. While I initially felt that the actors were a bit lacking in charisma during the first act, everything changed when they went to the afterlife. The fact that this movie had so many twists and turns really snowballed into a completely enjoyable experience. The comedy was incredible too. Each character had his or her own sense of humor, and even though I could not stand some of the characters, they were playing the role of you love to hate that person, which worked really well. As a little plot summation, Lydia Deetz, played by Winona Ryder, finds out that her father has passed away, and her stepmother as well as her daughter all have to go back to the original house that contains Beetlejuice. Some wacky stuff happens and they have to resolve an issue that takes them to the afterlife, where Beetlejuice is from. I'll let you know when I get into spoilers later, but for now, let's talk about what I really liked in this movie without any spoilers. Bro, the kookiness was delightful and also creepy. There were times where really gross stuff was happening and it felt very weird, like most Tim Burton movies. So if you like that stuff, he does a great job at replicating his usual tactics. I also thought that no one in the movie theater was appropriately laughing at the jokes. The humor was so dry that I absolutely loved it. I was actually enjoying myself, which is rare, but it was because the actors would have a certain straight face while saying the most absurd lines. You could tell that the actors were giving you a fourth wall nod while playing to that sarcastic tone. For example, there were lots of times when a specific ghost had died and they used that death as a morbid joke. However, the movie knew that we knew that it was an absurd joke, right? The film wasn't talking down to us. It was simply illuminating mutually understood sarcasm. I'm not saying that the people in my theater were dumb. I just mean that I have a very unique sense of humor that most people don't enjoy or understand why it's funny. To summarize, my fancy was tickled. Anyways, I was engrossed overall. I don't normally get fully involved in the stakes of a movie, but this one really captivated my imagination. It was like I was invested in these characters as real. No one jumped out to me as a person that was just there for the check, you know? I even thought the Danny DeVito cameo was flavorful and life-bringing. To get into the meat and potatoes of the plot, I honestly did not hate it. It had a little bit of mystery with some logical transitions, and it didn't feel like anything was shoved in there with no regard for proper flow and timing. I will say that the pacing in the first half was a bit too slow, but the climax was truly satisfying. There were these offhand serenades and musical bouts, which I really did like. I wasn't expecting them, and they had some cool choreography for the dance moves as well as meaningful plot development. Like, they used those songs to further develop backstory and flesh out characters. The last spoiler-free thing I'll say is that you guys need to go to see this movie if you like any of Tim Burton's stuff, or if you simply like Jenna Ortega's typecast personality. Now, I'm going to get into spoilers, so if you want to watch this movie, be warned and skip to the time shown on screen for a spoiler-free overview and analysis. I'm also giving the score out of 10 at the end of this video. Okay, you have been warned. Wow, there were so many cool surprises in this movie. Honestly, I had no idea that that dude who was seducing Jenna Ortega was a ghost. It did seem as though the two moved kind of quickly, but I guess that also applies to the ending where she gets, quote, married to that guy and has a Beetlejuice baby before Lydia wakes up from her potentially fake dream. I also thought it was hilarious how Delia just freaking died because she was so sure that those snakes she bought online were fangless. That's the type of comedy that I was talking about earlier. Really, it was a great movie, and I usually hate most things, especially when they try too hard, but it looked like everyone was having fun in this one, you know? Also, Beetlejuice's ex-wife, played by Monica Bellucci, was fabulous. She played the soul sucker incredibly well, and I was thoroughly enjoying the Beetlejuice narrated backstory that was in Spanish. That one scene where she was stapling herself back together was super noise. But yeah, let's get to the overall score and analysis. Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, a nearly 40-year-old sequel, had elements of intriguing surprise, multiple cleverly funny moments, and a cast of genuinely well-utilized actors, with my only qualm being a slightly slow and energy-lacking start. I am giving this film an 8.8 out of 10. What did you guys think?